Only a couple more questions from me. This one I want to ask. So when we look at integration, okay, and then of course knowing how we were when we were considered a separated people, I guess if Martin Luther King were present today, do you think he'd have any regrets about being the proponent for an integrated society?
I don't think he would have any regrets. His job would just be larger, more complicated, because of the introduction of machinery, electronics, and all these other things, trying to convince blacks that we need to get involved in the flow of education and the stream of employment. Now, in the olden days, I'll say olden days, let's go back 50 years or 70 years. We go back to that point. Here in Durham, we had several organizations. One was the Durham Committee on the Negro Affairs that was organized in 1935 by C.C. Spaulding. And he felt that at some point we needed to have something to speak for us and teach us how to vote and look after our lives politically. Then in 1938, he organized the Durham Business and Professional Chain. Now before that time we had the Negro Business League back in the 20s. But then he felt that there was something even bigger than the Negro Business League that was needed. So he organized the Durham Business and Professional Chain. And that organization was to get business people to work together in training, employment, advertising, drop load buying, and all this sort of thing. And that's what we did. We had the support of North Carolina Central University and later on the Durham Business College and the business schools in the high school, business courses in the high school, to teach our people how to do accounting, and some were teaching shorthand. And of course they taught economics, and we were taught at Hillside how to build, construction work, and electrical work, bricklaying, and various courses that way, tailoring. All those were taught in high school. But we got to a point, now well, let me tell you a little more what it. The Durham Business and Professional Chain organized what they called the Negro Trade Week, where we would teach our young folk and old folk, everybody, that it was important to buy from blacks. And for a week, every year, they made sure that everybody bought from blacks only. If there was anything else you needed, you let it wait and get accustomed. But at the same time, we taught black people how to operate businesses, how to make window displays, how to be courteous in business, how to do accounting, salesmanship. All that was done from the Durham Business and Professional Chain. And then we had an annual banquet every year, at which time we would recognize businesses that had been successful, that had made outstanding contributions and things of that sort. So we made sure that Central North Carolina College at that time helped us teach business people how to do advertising, how to do salesmanship, and how to operate their businesses, to even just to know when to go out of business if you couldn't stay in business. Sometimes you can get hung up in that,
Right.
and lose everything you got because you didn't know better. But we taught people all that sort of thing back then. We were very successful with it.
So Haytow was a reflection of all this hard work.
Correct.
All this education that was being provided by the different social organizations in the community.
In the community. And C.C. Spaulding was one of the movers and shakers that got a lot of that moving. Now, John Merrick and Dr. Moore were very important in what happened, but they gave us the beginning. And you see, both of them were dead by 1922. See, I don't know the exact dates of death, but see, one died in 1917, the other one about 1922. C.C. Spaulding then became the president, and he became the leading force for blacks in the South particularly. And he worked with the National Business League. He was president at the organization of the National Business League in Norfolk, Virginia in 1910. And so all of this was important to what happened here in Durham, and it was so structured that we had the support of the black community participating in what we were doing at that time. And so it moved on up the line. And when they started and built a bank here in Durham, and then a second bank, and all these businesses, we had our own fire insurance company, a Bankers Fire Insurance Company. I guess it was the only black one in the country, right here in Durham. We had the Southern Fidelity Mutual Insurance Company, which was a hospitalization, a health care insurance company back there then. It paid the doctors $5 for your visit or whatever. But it wasn't much, but it did a whole lot. And all of this was important in getting the image in Durham to what it was. And I would imagine that there may be some few people still coming to Durham just to see the North Carolina Mutual building. Because it started on Parish Street. Well, it just started further up Main Street, really. Main and Mangum, somewhere in that area. And eventually got to the point of Parish Street, where they built the main building, but they had a building there before that one that burned about 1916, somewhere back there. But anyway, they owned from where the bank building is now to the corner. They owned all of the buildings to that corner. Then while I was there working, they bought the buildings behind that on Orange Street almost halfway to the post office.
Wow.
And then they had another huge building in the middle of that parking lot across from the post office, but it was on the Mangum Street side. But in that building we had the what was called the tabulating department. Back there we had tabulators, not computers. Computers came later. Tabulating department, and there was another department in there. I'm not sure what it was now. I have to think about it. It might have been the claims department, handling death claims, or all claims, medical claims and everything else. But across the street from that, back on Orange Street, we had the actuarial department. We had the auditorium where we met with our employees every Saturday morning. And above that, we had our own cafeteria, which was created by the fact that blacks were not able to find food of employees in any group downtown. You could go and buy sandwiches out the back door of some of those places, or segregated lunches where you go and buy a bag and go somewhere to sit and eat. But North Carolina Mutual had a cafeteria.
Segregated lunches, I've never heard that before. So what was that again? What would happen?
Oh, well, there was those places downtown that you could buy food, but you couldn't sit down in a place to eat. Or you could go to the kitchen door, the back of the building, go down the alley and go around to the back of the building. They would sell you a bag lunch, but you could not go into the building to eat. That was all over the place. That was what started the sit-ins. You couldn't sit in anywhere to eat. And not only that, in places downtown, you couldn't go in and try on shoes and clothes and things like that. So all of that was a part of what we were suffering as blacks in the South. And it was worse as you went to other places. Money showing up. And cars weren't expensive. You could buy a Ford car back then, $600, brand new. But it got to a point that the automobile dealers realized that here you have tobacco workers who are steadily working and have weekly pay, and they can pay for a car so much a week, $15 a week or whatever, or $5 a week, whatever. So as a result, they sold cars. And I can remember back there when the Buick car made a car called a 225, and we used to call it a deuce and something.
Deuce and a quarter.
Deuce and a quarter, yeah, that's what it was.
Okay.
Man, we had more of them in Durham than any place in the world. Everybody had a deuce and a quarter, and cars like that. And then I can also remember a fellow here that lived down on Dunston Street that wanted a Cadillac, and he went to the Cadillac dealer here. I won't call the name there; not in business now anyway. But he went to the Cadillac dealer to buy a car, and he said no. He said, "I'll sell one to Mr. Spaulding or Dr. Shepard or somebody else, but no, not you. You're a tobacco worker. I can't sell you a Cadillac. I'll sell you a LaSalle or something else." This guy goes to Detroit and gets him a Cadillac. And he told me, he said, "You know what I did with it?" I said, "What?" He said, "I drove it down there to the dealer down there, drove in and said, I just want you to see that I got me a Cadillac."